In the mid-1920s, in Cambodia, a pair of tigers lived peacefully in the forest, playing together among the ancient temples. Far away, a large auction of elephant ivory begins, and members of the upper class compete for the precious items brought by hunters. At the back of the audience, Aiden watches the scene intently, and realizing that no one seems interested in the ivory he brought to the auction, he signals for the presenter to move on to the next item. The man then presents a 13th-century Buddhist statue, which was brought directly from South Asia. Uninterested in the rest of the auction, Aiden prepares to leave, but upon hearing several bids being made on the statue, he becomes confused and returns to watch the bidding. In a few seconds, the statue ends up being sold for a large sum, and realizing how valuable these items can be, the hunter has an idea. Back in the forest, the pair of tigers continue their day alongside their new cubs, who explore the river while their parents lie on the bank. During their exploration, the pair is distracted by a dry coconut, and they begin to play with the object, venturing deeper and deeper into the forest. At that moment, the siblings end up separating, and while chasing the coconut through the forest, the little tiger finds a baby skunk. Curious, the animal begins to chase it, but is quickly surprised by the cub's mother, who scares it away, causing it to climb one of the trees in fear. Quickly, the other tiger appears to protect his brother, and realizing that she cannot win that fight, the mother opossum hides back in her den. Thanks to this, the cub comes down from the tree unharmed, and soon after, the pair hears some screams in the distance and runs to the cliff to find out what is happening. As they do so, the little ones see a large group of humans walking through the forest, and sensing the presence of the intruders. The mother tiger runs to fetch her cubs, bringing them back to the temple. While the cubs feed alongside their mother, their father climbs the wall to observe the area and sees a camp of hunters right next to them. The next day, Aiden places several sticks of dynamite around one of the temple statues, and the explosion wakes up the feline family. After knocking down the main building, the men begin to collect the remaining statues and pieces of the temple, but suddenly, one of the hunting dogs detects the presence of the tigers. Alerted, all the hunters rush to get their weapons, and the frightened mother takes one of her cubs in her mouth, leaving one behind. Terrified, the cub tries to follow her, but the temple walls are too high, and he cannot reach his mother. At the same time, the father tiger quickly leaves the scene, and after a few minutes of searching, the hunters conclude that they have lost sight of their targets. At that moment, one of the dogs manages to find the cub that was left behind and walks toward it with its owner. However, before he can get close, the hunter is surprised by the tiger father, who jumps on him and begins to attack him with his claws. Immediately afterwards, Aiden appears, shooting at the predator, which is eliminated instantly, leaving the cub in a panic. Seeing its father's body lying on the ground, the cub approaches to hide under it. And after rescuing the wounded hunter, the leader orders that the animal's body be taken with them. Before leaving, Aiden spots the cub hiding just below his feet and decides to take it with him. Throughout the journey, the cub begins to gain more confidence in the hunter, even allowing him to hydrate it with his canteen. Hours later, the hunters stop at one of the peasant villages in the region, where the chief thanks them for eliminating the tiger, as that species had been responsible for several attacks on villagers. Soon after, the man says he is excited to know that the hunter has brought one of the cubs as an extra reward, but Aiden interrupts him, saying he will not take the little tiger with him. At that moment, a military vehicle appears in the village, and upon seeing the stolen statues from the ancient temple, Sergeant Van decides to arrest Aiden and take him away in his truck. Caught off guard, the man ends up leaving the cub in the village, and when he tries to escape to follow him, the animal is captured by the local chief. Before leaving, the sergeant walks up to the village chief and hands him a large sum of money as a thank you for reporting the stolen statues. At dusk, the mother tiger returns to her den in the ancient temple, and when she notices that the male tiger and her other cub are no longer there, she sets out in search of the rest of her family. In a few minutes, the tigress reaches the village, and upon hearing her cub crying in the building, she begins to respond to its roars. This alerts the village chief, who uses his trumpet to summon all the hunters to their huts. Quickly, the men grab their weapons and throw several torches at the mother tiger, forcing the animals to leave the area. In a state of rage, the cub pulls itself out of the tower balcony and ends up falling into a chicken coop. The next day, the little tiger is taken away by a buyer, and when the mother sees her cub trapped in the vehicle's crate, she becomes enraged and heads towards it. Seeing her approaching, the animal screams desperately, making its mother even more furious and causing her to jump on top of the vehicle to rescue it. However, as soon as he sees the predator in his vehicle, the driver begins to perform several maneuvers on the road, and the movement causes the animal to fall to the ground. This leaves the cub completely desperate, and with no energy to continue the chase, the mother tiger watches the vehicle drive away, desperate for not having been able to save her cub. Far away, Administrator Eugene arrives at his district's prison, where he is excited to discover that his guards have arrested Aiden, who is recognized as a major celebrity in the hunting industry. After releasing him, the man says he wants a share of the treasures found by the hunter. And soon after, he says he has an important request to make. Meanwhile, the tiger cub is taken to a large circus tent, where director Zerbino names him Kuma, his newest beast. The man then introduces his co-workers and Saladin begins to tease the animal, which bites his wrist. Outraged, the madman punishes the poor cub and locks it in one of the cages, where the small animal notices that an adult tiger also seems to have been captured by those criminals. Hours later, in the forest, the mother tiger walks through the area with her other cub, when suddenly the little one gets caught in one of the alarm nets. This alerts all the hunters, and realizing that they may be in danger, the animals flee. However, halfway there, the mother tiger steps on another trap and falls into a giant hole. Worried, the cub approaches to try to help his mother, but this was a terrible idea. And he ends up falling into the hole with her. Hearing the group of hunters approaching, the little animal hides under the rubble, and at that moment Aiden appears. Realizing that he has captured another valuable animal, he asks his men to close the hole for now and leaves to tell Naira, the village chief's daughter, about his conquest. Meanwhile, the tigers remain trapped in the hunter's trap, and the next day, Eugene and Aiden are visited by an officer from the French colonial administration, who is invited to hunt tigers for entertainment. So, the group sets off on their elephants and begins to walk through the region, but at the trap site, the hatch is lowered by someone, allowing the tigers to escape. Quickly, the female tiger takes her cub to the den and sets out to take revenge on the humans. However, as soon as he sees the predator approaching, the French officer fires his gun at the animal, which falls to the ground instantly, leaving the cub terrified. With the tiger eliminated, the man leaves to take a photo with the animal's body, but what he did not realize was that his shot only hit the tigress's ear, who suddenly gets up and runs away. Upon seeing their superior fall to the ground, the guards try to shoot the animal, but none of them manage to hit it, and minutes later, they say goodbye to the French officer, who orders that the animal be brought to him as soon as possible. At that moment, Eugene and his wife notice that their little dog Bitsy has disappeared along with Raoul, and they search for both of them in complete despair. Nearby, the boy notices that Bitsy has found the tiger cub hiding in the den. And in order to calm him down, he asks the little one not to be afraid, as he will not harm him. Sometime later, Raoul plays in his room with his new friend, who is named Senga and is welcomed as the newest member of the family. Meanwhile, Kuma remains trapped in the hut, and the men begin to get angry when they notice that he is refusing to eat. Realizing that the cub does not seem well, Caesar, the adult tiger, uses his tail to entertain him, allowing the little tiger to become a little more animated. Hours later, Zerbino's circus begins another one of its performances, sending Caesar out to perform the first act of the night. During the preparation, Saladin talks to Zerbino's wife, and the pair conclude that they are tired of having to deal with the old tiger and plan to sell him to someone. However, the man says that selling the animal will not be an easy task, as its age will cause any buyer to lose interest easily. At home, Eugene talks to Aiden during dinner, while Raoul plays with Senga under the table. The administrator says he will need another tiger skin to give to the Frenchman as a gift, since after the incident with his hunt, the man is uncertain about the negotiations. Although reluctant, Aiden agrees to get another animal, but at that moment, the cub ends up ringing the butler's bell, who opens the living room door, allowing Bitsy to invade the place. Because of this, Senga ends up getting scared of the animal and tries to climb onto the table, causing everything to fall onto the floor. The next day, Aiden goes to the circus hut, and when he sees the man who rescued him, Kuma gets excited. As soon as he reunites with his old friend, the hunter realizes that he has new company, so he won't feel lonely and concludes that it will be better if he stays with the circus members. While interacting with the cub, Aiden is surprised by Zerbino and Saladin, who explain that they are looking for a tiger skin that needs to be delivered as soon as possible. Seeing an opportunity, Saladin says they can provide the skin for a high price, and even though he knows the price is wrong, the hunter agrees and asks them to use part of the money to feed the cub. Thus, Caesar is cowardly eliminated so that they can use his skin, and now that the circus's big star is gone, Saladin moves Kuma to the larger cage, saying that from now on, he will be the new star. In his palace, the French officer holds a photo shoot with his new tiger skin, but feels dissatisfied, knowing that this is not the same animal he was hunting that day. Sometime later, Eugene holds a meeting in his office as usual, but while lying on one of the shelves in his owner's room, Senga is surprised by Bitsy, who starts barking at him. Suddenly, the structure on which the cub is standing breaks, causing him to fall to the floor, and he is forced to run to avoid being attacked by the dog. This chase causes enormous chaos throughout the residence. And amid the destruction, Senga runs to the basement to hide. However, Bitsy easily finds him and attacks him. The problem is that this dispute ends in a tragic way, and when Eugene's wife runs to the basement to calm the animals down, she is faced with a terrifying scene where Bitsy has been eliminated by Senga. Frightened by the animal's behavior, the woman orders the authorities to remove him from her home, and as much as Raoul tries to stop them, the officials push the cub into a vehicle and take him away. Later, Senga is taken to the French prince's dungeon, where several animals are kept imprisoned as if they were trophies of the madman. A year later, Kuma has grown into an adult tiger, and the circus members begin training the animal, which receives various punishments until it finally obeys their orders and jumps through the rings of fire. Suddenly, Zerbino and Saladin are surprised by the arrival of one of the French prince's guards, who is organizing a festival with a ceremony in which he will face a ferocious animal in combat. Therefore, they need an opponent to participate in this duel, and Zerbino replies that for a good payment, they can provide a great predator to face. The prince's tiger. In his palace, the prince shows his wife the new luxurious collar he will put on Senga, who has also become an adult tiger, and soon after, the man sits down to interact with his animal for a few minutes. However, Senga is no longer as shy as before and acts ferociously, causing the prince to give up interacting with him. On the day of the ceremony, Eugene goes to the festival with his family, and while Zerbino prepares in the arena, visitors sit down to watch the show. At the same time, Aiden walks to the cage and is devastated to notice that the tiger that will be used for the fight is none other than the cub he had rescued in the past. Soon after, Zerbino and Saladin appear and order the man to leave, but he refuses to do so, saying that he had asked them to take good care of him, not to turn him into an object of entertainment. Realizing that he has no other choice, Aiden takes the key to the cage and says he will pay whatever price they want to free the animal. However, Saladin says that the man would not be able to cover such a high price and calls his subordinates to corner the hunter. Minutes later, the combat ceremony begins, and the musicians start playing as Senga is released into the arena. At that moment, Aiden runs to the stands with some injuries and asks Naira to accompany him to leave that place immediately. Seeing Senga running through the arena, Raoul begins to shout, saying that this is the tiger he took care of when it was still a cub, but Eugene tries to deceive him, saying that his old friend was taken to a zoo in Bangkok. Soon after, Kuma is taken to the arena by Saladin. And when he sees his opponent on the other side of the tunnel, he gets scared and refuses to go out. However, the poor animal is pressured by circus employees, who force him to go outside, and as soon as his opponent appears in front of him, Senga attacks him. The tigers then exchange several blows in the arena, but within seconds of the battle, Senga realizes that this is none other than his brother, and begins to remember the day he protected him while he was hiding in the treetops. Thanks to this, the felines stop attacking each other and begin to play excitedly, happy to have found each other again after so long apart. Irritated by this, the guards begin to throw several stones at the animals, who try to dodge them so they won't be hurt. Furious with Kuma's behavior, Saladin begins to attack him with his stick. But the tiger quickly grabs the coward's arm with his mouth, causing a serious injury. At the same time, Zerbino enters the arena to shoot at the predator, but Senga is faster and jumps on top of the director, destroying part of his body in revenge for everything they did to his brother. At that moment, people notice that the gates of the large cage have been left open, and quickly, the tiger brothers run to free themselves. This causes panic among the visitors, who flee in fear while the tigers escape unharmed from the scene. Outside, Senga prepares to leave, but Kuma ends up entering the circus cage, as the poor feline has become accustomed to making this journey every day throughout his life. Noticing his brother's behavior, Senga roars to get his attention, and thanks to this, Kuma realizes that he no longer belongs to humans. Thanks to this, the tigers leave together towards the forest, where they come across a kind of bus carrying several animals trapped on its roof. In order to help them, the pair attack the vehicle together, causing a minor accident and allowing everyone to be freed while the humans run away in fear. Seizing their chance, the tigers feed on the food that was being transported, and soon after, they head towards the districts, destroying all the houses and buildings they find along the way. After that, Senga and Kuma sneak into a butcher's vehicle so they can feed even more, and with their revenge complete, they return to the forest. Shortly after, while playing distractedly, the felines are surprised by several shots and run so they won't be hit. At dusk, Aiden arrives at a huge camp set up by soldiers and peasants from the region, and when he meets his friend, Eugene says they need to find the brothers as soon as possible. Soon after, the man sits down next to Raoul, who begs him not to eliminate the tigers, since they have done nothing to deserve it. Aiden then replies that it must be done, otherwise Senga and Kuma may end up attacking innocent people around the villages. Feeling sad to hear this, the boy says he knows the tigers would not hurt anyone, since they will be at home from now on, so they have no reason to attack people. However, Aiden explains that they have no way of guaranteeing this, and promises that after this mission, he will never act as a hunter again, and will return home so he can pursue his career as a writer. The next day, Senga and Kuma arrive at a cliff, and in the distance they see the temple where they used to live with their parents. Suddenly, Aiden appears on the scene with all the other hunters, who start a huge fire around the entire forest. This frightens the tigers, and as they try to escape, they realize they are surrounded by fire. Trying to find an escape route, the brothers run desperately through the area, and when they spot their targets, Aiden signals for the hunters to get ready. However, before they are attacked, Kuma has an idea, and using what he learned during his life as a circus tiger, he leaps across the fire. That scene terrifies Senga, and believing he has just witnessed his brother being eliminated by the fire, he begins to roar in panic. Quickly, Kuma responds to the tiger's roars and jumps back to him, allowing Senga to calm down. Soon after, the brothers set out to make the jump together, finally managing to escape the hunter's ambush. Witnessing this behavior, Aiden is surprised and runs to find Eugene, who is desperately searching for his son. Nearby, Raoul finds the pair of tigers resting in a shallow area of a stream, and upon encountering his old friend, Senga approaches him. Relieved that the animal is still alive, the boy asks him to move on with his life from now on and never come near humans again, as they will try to hurt him again. Raoul then removes the jeweled collar from his friend's neck and throws it away, leaving Senga even more peaceful. At the same time, Aiden approaches with his gun, but before he can shoot the tiger, he is surprised by Kuma, who watches him silently. Realizing that there is no longer any reason to continue with all this, the man lowers his gun, and as soon as the animal approaches, he asks for forgiveness for everything he has caused in his life. After that, Aiden and Raoul watch the brothers leave through the forest and hear the roar of a third tiger responding to their calls. The pair then head towards the ancient temple, where they find their mother still alive and waiting for them. With the family reunited, the tigers return to live in the great jungle, knowing that from now on, they can finally feel safe in their own home.